Destination weddings. So obviously, I think, and nowadays when you're talking about trends, it seems like over the last few years, weddings I've been to and so on, most of them have been abroad from where, the people are living.
Right.
What's your Hey guys, welcome to Hope It Helps. And my guest on the show today is Miss Zainab Al Salih. Zainab, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Khalid. Very nice to be here.
Thank you for your time. So guys, this is a very special guest. I don't usually have this kind of relationship with my guests. So just some context, guys. Zainab was actually my wedding planner. And I think it's safe to say we were the easiest clients in the world.
You were.
Yeah. It's okay. We'll talk off record. It's fine. But yeah, so Zainab not only did our wedding, and yani, obviously if you were there, lucky you. It was an amazing time, and I haven't actually spoken to a wedding planner on my podcast before. So anytime there's someone an area I haven't touched, I'm really excited. And coincidentally, you also did our wedding. So there's so many things to bring into it. But before we get into everything, Zainab, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
So I have been doing this for 15 years. I'm also a mother of 3 boys, almost men now. Mm-hmm. I can't call them boys anymore. I actually started my career as a banker. And then, shifted into weddings and events. It wasn't something I had dreamt of or planned. It just kind of happened organically. And it was my passion that I didn't realize I had until I started doing it. So it's been 15 years. I can't believe how long it's been. Looking back now, they always ask you if you know how hard it would have been and, would you do it all over again? And it's very interesting because I love what I do. I'd say yes, 100 times. Yeah. I would do it all over again. I also started an interior business during COVID. And I recently published my book in December of 2022.
I took just a quick glance at it from what I could find, online. It looks really, really interesting, and we're going to dive into that a little bit later. But coming back to, I didn't know that you started off in banking and then, went into events and, weddings. So those are two, they don't really go together. So could you tell us the story about when, I guess, maybe why you decided to leave banking and you're like, maybe this is an area that you'd be interested in?
All right. So, of course, Khalid, you come from a Middle Eastern family.
Yep.
And you understand the dynamics of, when you're deciding what to do, in your professional life and what you're going to study. And especially, I'm much older than you. So especially with my kind of generation, you kind of listen to what your parents tell you to do. And my father's dream for me was for me to be a banker. He always had this vision that his daughter is going to be, a banker. And I'm the eldest. And I am a people pleaser, so I wanted to make sure I do what makes my father happy. Mm-hmm. And I went into business school, and I studied finance, and I graduated, and I came back, and I started working for National Bank of Dubai at the time, which is Emirates MBD today.
Oh wow! Back
then, way back then. I'm giving away my age now.
Those days,
yes, okay. But so I started off in that, and for a few years, I just kind of did it because I'm someone that once I'm committed to something, I'm committed and I do it well. However, there was something missing. I didn't feel I was happy doing what I do. I'm very much a people's person, and I love being part of happy things. And I wasn't necessarily doing happy stuff. I was in the credit department, which was not a happy department. Restructuring loans and, mortgaging people's homes and, and calling people for defaulting. And so it was not really a happy place. And then it wasn't really until I had my first child that I decided that I was going to take some time off and kind of stay home for a while just to figure things out. And because I didn't really want to go back to work, maternity leave was 6 weeks, which was nothing.
Yeah, really short.
It's very short. And I was just physically, mentally, all around, wasn't ready to go back to work. So I sent in my resignation and I was like, okay, I'm going to spend a year at home and then figure out what it is that I wanted to do. It took a while for me to figure out what I wanted to do. I worked with my husband for a while and kind of dabbled in things here and there, but it wasn't until almost after I'd had my second child, that I kind of decided that, okay, I need to know what it is that I want to do. I wanted to go back to the workforce, or did I want to start my own thing? And starting my own thing was very attractive because I wanted to be flexible with my time.
Sure.
I wanted to be able to be there for my children and still be able to work and be productive and do something that's for me. It was actually my husband's idea.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
because I'd always loved entertaining. I was infatuated with the world of weddings and design and home interiors and things like that. I planned amazing dinners at home. Every time a friend of mine got married or a relative, I'd be like, I'll do it. So he actually was like, have you not considered that maybe this is something that you want to do because you enjoy, you love it, and you're good at it? And to be honest, it hadn't crossed my mind. I was like, an event planner? And that was a new concept in this part of the world. Typically, you have wedding designers or florists, but planning weddings was not a thing that people did here, like hiring a professional wedding planner.
Oh, really? At
Because,
the time, it wasn't? Okay, interesting.
No,
Okay.
because typically it's planned by the family.
True.
You know how it is. It's like the aunts and the uncles and the grandparents. And, everyone's involved.
Everyone's
Recipe for disaster. But it wasn't, like hiring a professional wedding planner. In the US, in Europe, it's very common. It's been around for many, many, many years. But here it was like, and when I first started, people were like, why am I hiring you? What am I paying for? What are you going to give me? They thought of something tangible. It's,
Yes.
The idea of that you're paying me for my service or for my time and expertise was very hard at the beginning. So when I first started, I started as a corporate event planner.
Okay.
Because my husband at the time had a few events that he was planning around his work. And he said, you know what, maybe that's your start. Maybe just plan that and see how you get on.
Yeah.
And I did. And I did that for a while and I enjoyed it. And then it was just by sheer coincidence that the first wedding client came along.
Okay.
And she called me and said that someone had given her my number and that you were a planner and that she was getting married and was here alone, had no family, no friends, and she didn't know where to start. So I had to tell her that I wasn't
I'm curious, how'd you feel?
I wasn't really a professional wedding planner. I said, I've never really planned a wedding in a professional capacity. I'd done it for friends and family. I know a thing or two, but I have to tell you, you'd be my first. So she was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I'm new to Dubai.
Okay.
I just got engaged. My family's not here. My fiance's family are not here. Don't have friends. If you're happy to do it, I'm on board. I was like, great.
Yeah.
As long as you know what you're getting yourself into. So that was the start.
Okay.
And then it went really, really well. And I realized that was where my passion lied. I found my passion.
Yeah.
And that's when Carousel was born.
Wow.
Never looked back since.
Never looked back. Wow.
No.
That's I love stories like that when people fall into something that they do that was never, planned. Even this sitting with you now, this was never in the cards, and I like those kind of stories, how they work out and then what they lead to. So I can imagine that's such a good story about that first client that you have, because I feel it was a risk on both sides, because she's like, I don't know anyone, and your risk is like, I've never done this before.
Exactly.
So how did it feel that first experience, like planning that wedding? Was there, because you've done some events before, like some corporate stuff, was it just a different energy? Because I feel the weight of that is like, there's more significance on that rather than like a corporate event.
100%. When you are planning someone's wedding, that's one of the most important days in their lives. You don't get a do-over. If you make a mistake, you can't say to them, well, let's try this again next week. Or maybe we'll fix it. There's just so much at stake. Like you said, with corporate events, there's no emotional attachment. I mean, you're planning a corporate event, something goes wrong. Okay, I mean, not that it should.
Yeah.
But it's not as catastrophic as a wedding.
For sure.
And the idea that you are the custodian of such big dreams and such a big responsibility is daunting and extremely stressful. And to this day, I mean, that does not change. In fact, it gets worse, I think, because as you know, the weddings got bigger and the responsibilities got, and the expectations were higher. It's getting worse.
The expectations must be the challenge. Yeah.
So that, I think, that was a thrilling experience for me, and to also be part of such an emotional time. and such a happy time and joyous time, and that you're part of memories. You're part of people's memories. Like, you'll always remember me.
Yes, for
right?
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Every time you think of your wedding, you're going to remember me.
Yeah, I am.
And knowing that is a very fulfilling thing for me, knowing that my couples and their families will always remember me and hopefully associate me with the happiest day of their lives.
Sure.
So I think, what a blessing.
Yeah.
So I think, and that is what drew me to the world of weddings versus corporate, for example, is that human touch, is that personal connection.
Yeah.
And it felt like my purpose is to bring joy and happiness to people.
Yeah. It sounds like it felt comfortable for you.
It did.
It sounds like as you were doing it, you're like, this feels right.
Right.
This is what I
me.
want. Yeah. This is exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
This is you. So
Yeah.
on the personal touch that you were talking about, because I was thinking about this when I was preparing, is compared to, because what you're providing is a service, right? Your knowledge, expertise, your time. In other areas or in other service-based businesses, you do need to develop a relationship with the client because it's a service. It's not something tangible, it's something that you believe I will add value to. But I feel, or I was reflecting, but when it comes to weddings, it's a different level of personal touch that you have to have, and
yes.
the importance of developing that relationship with the client in what you do is much more important or much more crucial than maybe other service-based businesses.
100%. Like I said, it's a very personal time.
Yeah.
It's very intimate. It doesn't get more intimate than that as part of a service. And, there are times where you get so close to your clients that you're even part of their everyday problems. Any issues that may arise between, I think, the lead up to a wedding is very emotional for everyone. Two families are coming together. People are getting to know each other. I mean, the couple might know each other very well, but their families, and there's just so much going on in the dynamics and making sure everyone's happy and that, no one feels left out. And there are times where I kind of have to mediate and be really part of that as well. I have to walk people off the ledge at times. There are times where people feel like they're finding it difficult to communicate with family members, whether it's the mother or the mother-in-law or the father. And it's then my job to be able to kind of, I would say, bridge that gap and help. And it is part of my job, because my job is to take the stress off of you and to make you enjoy it. So if I have to do that for you, to have you enjoy it, then I will. So it is a very different kind of a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's very important for me to also to get to know you,
Yeah,
to understand
true.
you,
Yeah.
what you like, what you don't like, because I am planning something that ultimately should represent you and reflect you.
Yeah.
So when we were planning your wedding with Lana, it was very important that when people come to your wedding, be like, oh my gosh, this is so Khalid and Lana.
Yeah.
This is, we feel their spirit in this wedding. So this is why it's a very intimate relationship.
Yeah.
And you have to get that connection. And a lot of times, if I don't feel that connection, I can't do it.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that. So if you don't feel that chemistry in, those
in both ways.
Yeah. In those initial meetings, even you might be like, you know what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there have been times where we had actually started and then
really?
a few weeks into it, only to realize this is not working out.
Okay, interesting.
If the chemistry is not there, if the trust is not there, which is very important for me, the number one thing, you have to trust me. If I feel that my couples don't really trust me, that's it.
Yeah.
Because you need to have blind trust.
Yeah.
That I know what I'm doing and that I have your best interest at heart, and that there is absolutely no room for doubt here.
Yeah.
And the reason why the chemistry, the getting along, the trust, because again, I'm planning something so intimate, and it's a very emotional time, and my heart has to be in it. This is not a transaction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. In your line of business, it is not just simply a transaction.
It's not. So if my heart's not in it, how am I going to create a day that exudes love and happiness and elegance? And if I'm like, I can't work with,
Yeah.
So it's very, very important.
Yeah. And it's interesting that I think, but there's different, in any field, you're going to get different types of designers, different types of people who do this job, because obviously, as you know, there are other wedding planners out there that are like, I'm the best. You're coming to me for this reason. Therefore, like, take a back seat, and this is how I think it should be, and like that. And if you
take it or leave it.
exactly, take it or leave it. So there is different approaches, to that. But
yeah, no, I'm not the kind of, this is how it is, and no. If I know that this works, I'm going to bend over backwards to make it happen for you.
Yeah.
If there's something I know you want and it can be done, I will do it. I may not, maybe there's a little bit of an element of, but I think this is better. But the only time where I draw the line is if I know this doesn't work. This will jeopardize.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you don't know. I've been doing this. This is your first time. And on the day, if there's something that goes wrong or doesn't look good, you're going to be like, why did you agree? I'd be like, well, this is what you wanted.
Yeah.
No, it's not I'm going to give you my advice. I'm going to push it. I'm going to, as long as I know that this is for sure how it's going to be.
Yeah.
If it jeopardizes anything, it's a hard no for me.
Yeah.
But I'm as flexible as can be. And I will go to great bounds to make sure I give you what you want.
Yeah, but that is your job, though. It's your job to give that opinion because you've been doing it for so long. I'm sure throughout, the last 15 years, the number of unreasonable or ridiculous requests you've gotten are endless. So there has to be someone that has to rein us in, sometimes. It's just true. That's just how it is.
And the thing is as well, I think lately, specifically, I think I'm not going to say the beginning of lately, because of social media, people are bombarded with so much every day. They see so much. It's hard to impress. There's always something better, and there's always something bigger, and there's always something new. And because people see so much, it's getting harder to impress, which is why I tend to focus more on the journey and the experience.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So instead of focusing heavily on what my wedding is going to look like,
okay,
because there are a lot of beautiful weddings and anybody can do a beautiful wedding. I always tell people that the experience you create for your guests is more important because that's how you differentiate your wedding. It's by that experience.
Yeah.
Because it's very personalized. And that's my job, is to give that personalized experience to you, your family, your friends. How people feel, they will remember forever. They walk in and they see something beautiful. They're impressed for the first 10 minutes. Then it's over. And the most beautiful wedding, if it's not planned properly, if you haven't really curated an experience that fulfills all the senses, people will leave not remembering what the wedding looked like. They're not going to say, oh, it was a beautiful wedding. They're going to leave saying, the music was awful. The food was not great. The service was mediocre. We were not comfortable. We didn't feel like it was fun. This is the stuff that people will remember and will focus on.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to have a beautiful wedding. Everything has to come together. You have to have a full concept in place from the way it looks. But really, it's about the experience. The journey is your journey to your wedding day. There's no point in you having a bad time leading up to it, stressed, everyone's upset, no one's having fun. Because by the time you arrive to your wedding, it's like, I'm over it. Yeah. I just want it over. And you can't feel that way. And one of the best compliments I ever get when my clients say goodbye to me is that we want to do it all over again. I want to do it all over. It means I did my job.
Yeah,
it means that the journey to their day was just as enjoyable as the day.
Yeah.
And they want to do it all over again. Because you hear it sometimes, some brides say, oh my God, the planning journey was so hectic, was so stressful. I just couldn't wait for it to be over. I don't want to have to ever do it again. And that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must say, in my experience, I felt that way just because of it's not because of the actual wedding planning process. It's about going through that
anticipation and
the anticipation and this and the number of things you need to take into consideration, like people, places, numbers, who coming from here, there's so much more that goes into a wedding that I wasn't aware of. I'm like, oh yeah, you have a wedding, it looks good and great,
yes,
good food, good music, that's it. But to get all those, there's a lot of work to get there. But one thing you said, which I think is interesting, so you said every wedding you do is special. It is unique because you can't, replicate that. But so every wedding and every event is one of a kind. But I've heard in articles that you've talked about, there are like wedding trends. So if every experience is a unique, one of a kind thing, how are there also trends in the wedding? Could you, it sounds counterintuitive.
So there are trends, like things that are, for example, trending, like whether it's color trends or maybe, let's say, photo booths were a big thing for a long time. For example, instead of a traditional wedding cake, cupcake towers. Thank God that's over, because I was not a fan of cupcake towers. So there are these kind of trends. However, when it comes to designing weddings, I try and incorporate trends in a manner that stays timeless.
Okay.
I don't want you to look back at your wedding and be like, what were we thinking? Why did we decide to do that?
Yeah.
Even if you're going to incorporate a trend, you need to do it in a way that is elegant and not really tacky. There are some tacky trends that come, and I refuse. I'm like, you know what? This is not me.
Yeah.
This is not how I envision a carousel wedding to look like. And I will draw the line. I will say, if you come to me and say, I want swans and dolphins, and I'm going to be like, under the sea theme is trending. Like, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not the right person for you.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. Because at the end of the day, this is just too gimmicky. And 5 years from now, you're going to look back, and you're not going to want to look back at your photos. You're going to hate it. And I need to be proud of the wedding as well.
Yeah, of course.
Every single one of my weddings is on our social media platforms, on my website, in my book. There isn't a wedding today. If you tell me, is there a wedding that you don't want anyone to see or remember? Even my first wedding. It's actually in the book. And when you look at it, you couldn't tell when that wedding was.
Yeah.
So every wedding is unique. It might have some elements that are more trending for that year, like a garden wedding. But it's not like with trends that are very gimmicky.
Gimmicky, okay. And I think it's so interesting, or it's very challenging, I can imagine, to create a timeless experience, in the sense that no matter what point you look back in the future at this, it's not going to feel dated to you. It's still going to have that element that of relevance now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. But now I didn't know what you meant by trends. Now I get what you're talking. When you said photo booth, I'm like, instantly got that. But some trends are good.
Some trends are good.
I do like.
But it's like they say, sometimes fashion trends, they're fleeting, but having a style is forever.
That's true. Yeah, that's timeless. That's your
exactly.
brand, your branding,
your style.
Yeah.
So you have a particular style, and it doesn't matter if that's trending today or not. It's your style.
Yeah.
And as long as you wear it with elegance and grace, and it's not really that, because not everyone looks good in a trend.
True.
Just because it's trendy, I'm not going to wear it. And the same applies for weddings. Not because it's trending, we're going to do it. So trends need to be approached very carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can imagine bringing it back to, the personal side. So if I come to you, because your job is very difficult. And you said it actually in one of our first meetings, you're like, I'm the wedding planner, I'm your therapist, I'm like, I'm all these different things. And from how invested you have to get into like your relationship with your clients and building that vision must be very challenging. And I'm just reflecting on our experience, and I'm sure this is common in every situation, is managing different perspectives. Because you have yours on what you think works, doesn't
Correct.
work, or what you think would look nice, not look nice. And then there's like mine, there's like my parents, there was Lana, so that, and in every situation, it's very I can imagine it's very difficult to balance all of those things. Compromises, I feel, have to happen across, the board.
As with everything in life,
Yeah.
There has to be compromises. But my job is to balance all of that out.
Okay.
I kind of absorb everything from everyone. I understood what you and Lana wanted. I understood what your parents wanted. And my job ultimately is, don't say that to your parents now. You were my number one priority.
Yeah.
I needed to make sure that at the end of the day, you and Lana were going to be happy.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted your parents happy, but I tried in a very discreet way to make sure that I give you guys everything that you want.
Yeah.
And then it's a compromise as well.
Of course.
Okay, so, the parents want something a bit more formal and you guys wanted something that's a little bit more down to earth, more about, we were able to mesh both.
Oh, yeah.
And give them the experience and give you the experience that you wanted.
Yeah.
But I think the issue here is that there has to be flexibility.
Yeah.
People need to be flexible as well. And also a lot of times I feel that when I tackle it in a way where I make people think that it's my idea.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to be, no, but Lana and Khalid want that. Or, no, but your parents want that. No, I have to be very tactful as how I approach ideas and things that I bring to the table.
And I feel you have to pick, sorry to interrupt you, I feel like you have to pick and choose, the battles as well.
Yes.
This is like, this has to be, this one has to go to the parents, and then in this situation, okay, this maybe should go to them. Okay.
100%. Okay. You have to pick your battles. And also I think as your clients start to understand and know you, that level of trust, it's like, what? No, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
They allow me to it. And then, you get into that comfortable rhythm as well.
Yeah.
Which doesn't take a long time for people to, and usually most of the time when my clients hire me, that is already there from the beginning.
Sure.
Whether it's because of hearing from previous clients or through meetings, you kind of know that you feel comfortable. I think, when we first met, when you left the meeting.
I was sold.
Yeah, you felt like, okay, I can see her being our planner.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a feeling you get.
I think when working with you, like from mine and Lana's perspective, the most important thing was like you said, anyone can do a beautiful wedding, but I need someone who's gonna give me what I want, but also I wanted it to feel genuine. Like, does this person care?
Yes.
Or am I just a client to them?
Exactly.
And that applies, to every service-based, relationship that you have. If it's authentic and it comes with care and that translates to your client, then you're doing the right thing, I think.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, it's not a transaction. To
me, exactly.
And it's very I'm dealing with humans. It's like when I do my corporate events, for example, you're dealing with corporations, you're dealing with people that really, at the end of the day, they're also employees in that corporation. They care, but they're not emotionally invested. And it's like when I'm talking to people about their wedding, it's very personal. It's like, it's raw, it's emotion. It's, I can't talk to them like, what, this is what it is, take it or leave it. And, you can't be matter of fact.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you have to understand it's a very emotional time for them.
Yeah.
Which is, we come to the tricky subject of talking money and budgets. It's very hard with weddings.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Because, I hate the money part of it.
Yeah.
Because I feel it sucks that kind of joyful, and then it becomes more transactional, which is something that I don't like. And also it's like sometimes like you can't, it's hard to talk to people about money when it comes to their wedding, and this is their personal money. It's not like a company's budget is allocated
exactly,
to it. It's so difficult.
For sure.
So it's quite tricky.
Yeah, and because you have to bring you have to create the fantasy, but you also have to bring the reality into that fantasy.
Sometimes it's hard.
It's not
to burst a bubble.
But but that's what things have a price and things have budgets, and everyone has their own respective thing. Does when it comes to, because you were talking about how early days, how your first wedding started and so on. Do you have any like crisis wedding day like stories that you could share? Obviously no names and situations, no names, but I'm curious if there was one wedding just on the day that comes to mind. You're like, everything has just gone to shit today.
Believe it or not, there's always something that happens.
Sure.
Always.
Yeah.
But the key is that we're prepared for everything and anything that may happen. There is always that backup plan to that backup plan to that backup plan. But I think one of the stories that, and we've always averted it. We've always been able to avert problems and situations. And, I have a very rigorous process in place, and my suppliers are all very reliable. And I know that in times of crisis, they'll all come through. And I, of course, being calm and being, just ready is very important. But I think one of the ones that really stand out for me was one of my first weddings back in 2011. I'd been doing weddings for 2-3 years by then. And we actually had a ceiling installation, and it was all these Chinese lanterns. Lanterns were
cool.
a big thing at the time. And I couldn't find them here. And that was one of the things that the client really wanted to have, like a lantern installation over the dance floor. So I had to order them from the US. And then we were setting up the day before. So it took a good 7 to 8 hours to hang them because I was standing there. No, this is, a few inches up, a few inches, like just to kind of like get the exact look and feel, each one individually being hung. And then, so we went home, we set up and we went home to come back to the wedding the next morning. The wedding was due to start at around 2 p.m. We had a ceremony. And then the wedding reception in a tent on the beach at Mina Salam. So I arrive at 7 in the morning. I walk into the tent and the lanterns are gone.
What?
And I was like, where are the lanterns? No one knows. And I'm freaking out. Anyway, long story short, someone that had an event planned on the beach right outside our tent the night before assumed this was part of their setup and dismantled them.
Oh my! And you found this out the morning of the wedding.
The morning of the wedding, and dismantled them. I brought in the hotel event coordinator, and I was basically like, "These lanterns are to be brought back now. I don't care what you do. I don't care where you go. You will bring me my lanterns." He's like, "We'll go buy." I said, "Buy what? Those are, you can't find them here." I said, "I want those lanterns. I don't care what you have to do. Otherwise, I'm calling the police."
Yeah, fair enough.
Because this is our venue.
Yeah.
Someone actually trespassed on our venue and touched our stuff and dismantled. I said, "Where's your security? How was this even allowed to happen?" Anyway, of course, I'm like freaking out. I'm like crying. I'm like, what am I going to tell my client? Long story short, they found them.
Okay.
Luckily, they contacted and they brought them back. At that point, it was like 9:30, 10.
Wow. And the wedding starts at 2.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That was the fastest ever that we hung an installation. It took us an hour and a half to do something that took us 8 hours the day before.
Wow.
And yeah, but we did it. And the client really didn't know. I mean, if they'll listen to this podcast, they'll know. But I think it's been too long.
Yeah, I
they
think
think they're not going to care.
You would have gotten a complaint by now.
Yeah,
if there was
exactly.
an issue.
No, but I mean, we averted that crisis. I mean,
Sure.
luckily, they were brought back to us. But yeah, I mean, that was something that always stands out. It's a story that I will never forget because it was just crazy.
See, for something like that to happen, and the stakes are so high.
Exactly.
You don't have time to mess up for something to be misplaced, let alone be dismantled.
Right. And it's not about the money. It's not about, they spent money and now, refund them or no. I mean, it's not about the money. It's about that something they really wanted in their wedding is now gone. And if I can't bring that back for them, nothing's going to make it up for them.
Yeah, true.
And I think that's the most daunting thing. That's the most difficult part of my job.
Yeah.
Is that time and time again. And when people say, "Oh, you've been doing it for so long, it must be easy." I'm like, no, it's not. It will never be easy.
Yeah, it's probably just as, it's like you said now, because Yani, you've been doing it for so long and you've done amazing weddings, ours included, shout out. That not only is there that aspect, but the expectation now is also much, much higher. So
Exactly.
the stakes are even higher. So like you're saying, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder for you.
100%.
And so in every wedding, of course, you do it, and I'm sure because there's such unique events and all the stuff that goes into planning them is different, you learn a lot. Was there like one though that comes to mind, besides this one was like a disaster one, but was there one wedding that you really look back and it went well, but there was something that you took away that really like took the your planning from where you were to like that next level, maybe an insight or a perspective that you hadn't had before?
Khalid, I don't think I can pinpoint a specific thing, but with every wedding, there is a learning curve.
Sure.
I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly improving. I'm constantly saying, okay, so there are lessons with every wedding because every wedding is different and every wedding is unique, and I deal with different people all the time. But I think it's not that it's a lesson I learned from a single wedding, but sometimes maybe I tend to be a little bit too flexible.
Okay. Okay.
that I sometimes really need to put my foot down. And I think in my strive to please, I sometimes might hurt myself in the process. And I need to kind of remember that sometimes even if you're not pleasing someone in that particular moment, if you put your foot down, you'll please them later. They'll remember and be like, okay, so I think with I'm getting better with that. At the beginning, it was a problem.
I can imagine.
But with every wedding, I started to become a bit more assertive and a bit more less. I would say, like, okay, I'll do whatever it takes to make you happy. I will do whatever it takes, but sometimes it's by jeopardizing something.
Exactly.
And you don't want to do that. So it's not really a particular like lesson from every wedding, or no. It's rather I would say small lessons here and there with every wedding, with every event we do. And I continue to learn.
Yeah.
I still have a lot to learn. And I still have a lot to improve on, I would say.
Okay, interesting. Let's touch on that a little bit. What's an area, not that you're weak at, but what's an area that you would like to, improve at, like right now? Where do you see like, okay, this is the area I want to take to that next level?
Something that I'm also better at, I think delegating more.
Okay.
Not micromanaging.
Okay.
I think my team, I drive them crazy with, it's like, we've been working for you for many, many years. I tend to do that.
Okay.
I tend to micromanage.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a control freak. And I think I need to get better at that, because sometimes that is a problem in business. If you don't know how to delegate or just let people kind of do their job, and you want to kind of be a part of every single thing, because you need to let people do their job.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And when you let them do it, you empower them as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Khalas, they're like, Zainab, trust me. She's like, you told me to do this, I gotta leave it to me.
Exactly. It's like what I say to my clients: trust me. Don't micromanage. I need to tell myself to do the same.
I know.
I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I'm getting better. I think that's my area of weakness.
Okay.
But it also comes from me being very particular, and because I feel I shoulder the bigger, I would say, burden of the responsibility.
Well, at the end of the day, I came to work with, you specifically. Everything else all that responsibility falls on you, both as like a service and as a wedding and so on.
100%.
And it's interesting when, let's because there's lots of different areas I want to dive into, so I'm trying to decide where I want to go. I wanted to come on to, destination weddings. So obviously, I think, and nowadays when you're talking about trends, it seems like over the last few years, weddings I've been to and so on, most of them have been abroad from where the people are living.
Right.
What's your, like, a wedding is so everything we went through together, like a wedding is so challenging to make just locally as we did. Imagine doing it like why is doing it abroad? Would you recommend to someone to do it abroad if they really, really wanted it? Or is your preference always, because on the concept of control, you have less that I can influence and control there, or it's going to have to be a much heavier time investment to make sure that happens?
Correct. So, I get asked a lot if I do destination weddings, and I say, I'm not going to say no, I don't do destination weddings. I would do a destination wedding. However, I'm very weary of destination weddings because, like you said, like here locally, I know my suppliers very, very well. I know who I'm working with. I can make things happen on the ground. I know the city. I know every venue inside out. There's so much that could go wrong with a wedding. So if you're working in an unknown place, trying to vet suppliers is a challenge. Who are the good suppliers? Because there's so many people, they're not necessarily good. Mm-hmm. And the problem is with a lot of these suppliers, you're not going to know if they're good or not until you try them.
Yeah, it's a trial and error kind of thing, right?
You could look at their work and their accolades and their testimonials. Doesn't matter. Really. I mean, with social media, we like, there's so many times where I see so much on social media and I'm like, but I saw this in real life. This isn't what it looked like. Mm-hmm. People have no idea. Things can look spectacular on social media, but in reality, it's not the case. So it's very tricky planning destination weddings, and specifically for large numbers of people. we are very equipped for large numbers of people here when it comes to staffing, when it comes to space, when it comes to equipment. Like, for example, in Europe, I always hear people say that when it's a big wedding, service is very slow. It's very difficult to accommodate because they're not used to it as well. And the most important thing are your suppliers. You know, it's like a chain. And if you have a weak link in that chain, you could be the best planner on the planet. That's it. They'll jeopardize everything that you've done. So yes, destination weddings, people think they're fun. A lot of times it's because of the venues. You know, we were discussing this when we were discussing your venue. I understand. We are limited with venues here. We see photos of these spectacular venues in Europe, and everyone dreams of getting married there. But it does have challenges. It is very difficult, logistics. For example, sometimes people book a venue where your guests have to literally get on a plane, get on a train, get in a car, get on a boat to get to the venue.
Been there, yeah.
You know, by the time your guests get to your wedding, they're exhausted.
Yeah, true.
You know, and we were talking about the experience. And about, you know, so people might be like, you know, was that worth it for me to go through all that to get to a wedding, attend it for a few hours and then leave again? You know, I'm not a fan of them for these very reasons.
Sure.
But I do understand that sometimes it's also time of year. Like if people want to get married outdoors in the summer, they cannot do so here. If you want to get married in Europe in the winter, it's not an option. So there are these things that we have to take into consideration. A lot of times also, I think that's how people cut back on their numbers.
Well, yeah, because it's a bigger expense for me and effort for me to come now to your wedding. So I have a question, you know.
Exactly. If you're not close enough, or you're not going to do that. Yeah. So cut back. Like instead of having 1,000 people, you'll have maybe 300-400.
And I think that opens like, you know, that the famous debate, and this is what the debates we were having, you know, at home and whatever, is of course like it's so, you know, as let's say I was the groom, I'm like, okay. For me, in my case, I didn't really, and you saw, like, I didn't really know what I wanted. I knew definitely what I didn't want. If you showed me something, I'd be like, definitely not that. But if you're like, what do you want? I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah. So is it easier to work with, do you find it to work with people who have a very clear vision and, you know, you now like support that? Or in our case, for example, it felt like we didn't really know, and we built it, you know, with time and as things went on. What do you prefer?
Look, I mean, for me, either way works for me. I think that sometimes when people know exactly what they want, it's harder.
Yeah, because it's super particular.
It's super particular, and also it doesn't work that way because they might want a certain thing, but then their venue doesn't support that vision.
Yeah, true.
Their format doesn't support that vision. I want an all-white wedding in a venue that's super colorful, for example. I want a modern wedding in a venue that is very traditional, for example. Or they're so fixated on that vision that they're not flexible to any changes. And they're not willing to work to change it. And sometimes their vision of what they want might be, in theory, amazing, but in reality doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I prefer that people have an idea of what it is that they want, but maybe more of an abstract idea.
Okay, like a guideline, like this is the vibe.
Exactly.
Okay,
this is my vibe. These are my colors. By the way, you said that you knew what you didn't like.
Yeah.
That to me is just as important.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah.
Because I need to know what it is that you absolutely don't like and can't stand. So I always tell people, don't just tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like as well.
Yeah.
And I think when you're designing a wedding, I've done it so many times that I know what's going to work, what's not going to work. When you're thinking of your wedding, especially looking at stories, for example, I get a lot of these images from weddings in south of France or in a vineyard in Italy. And this is what I want my wedding. It's like, but this isn't here.
Yeah.
You know, you can't achieve that in a ballroom, for example. We can. But again, you don't want to force things. Yeah. You don't want it to look forced. That's
such a good point, like forced, when you're saying forced.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, you're trying to make it work, but it's not
Right.
going to be what you exactly want
No.
it to be.
I'll look at it because I'll kind of understand what kind of look and feel you're going for, but I'm going to have to adapt it.
To
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
Exactly. So I do care about what you want and what you like, but I've had people that come to me with like boards and boards and boards and like this chair and this linen and this, and it's like, okay, but guys, like it's not going to work that way. I'll take all of this, but you're going to have to allow me
Yeah.
to kind of tweak it and adapt it.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be very honest, I mean, to date, most of my clients really trust me. And they kind of get it and understand. They're like, you're the expert. You've done this. I
Yeah.
haven't done it. So I'm happy for you to tell me what works from what I've shown you
Yeah.
versus what doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think there has to be flexibility with that as well.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like you were saying, it's because I was thinking of it how, in one way, if I have know exactly what I want, that could be helpful to you because like, okay, very easy, I know what he wants, but now I'm like, the particularity of it is gonna make it challenging for you.
Right.
Whether in our case, for example, it felt more of. For me personally, as Khala, and I was just there, like parents
You were
had,
having fun.
Parents had an idea, Lana had ideas, and I'm just there like floating in. I'm like, okay, this looks good, this looks, this looks that.
But that's, by the way,
Yeah.
most grooms.
That's just me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but most grooms, by the way, grooms care about the experience.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
the music,
Yeah.
the vibe,
Yeah.
the food, the brides care more about how it's going to look like, for example.
Yeah.
So that's normal. I think maybe I've had a couple of grooms that were interested in what the wedding was going to look like.
Yeah.
But most of the time, grooms are really more interested in, I would say, the fun part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
The vibe, the entertainment is a big thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And food as well.
Yeah.
Those kind of things are more important. They're more of your priority as a groom.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where and kind of what you touched on earlier about that feeling, like even now when we speak to our friends, whatever, it felt like you've done lots of weddings, right? So obviously it's a very happy time, but I think every wedding has a different energy.
Of course.
And a different feel. And ours felt, okay, obviously I'm going to be super biased because it was mine, but it just felt like everyone was just like happy.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like
It was a big
comfortable,
party.
smooth,
It really was. It was, the energy was spectacular. It was fun from start to finish. And I think what's important, and I always tell people that, is that you as the couple will set the tone for the night.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
So if a couple come in and they're stiff and they're not moving and they're, and they're very nervous and they're, people take their cues from you.
Okay.
People saw that from the minute you guys came in, that's it.
Yeah.
The energy levels were high. You guys were like on cloud 9. You're dancing. People are happy for you.
Yeah.
They're there for you to celebrate you.
Yeah.
You have to set the tone, and that's it. You take it from there. If you're going to sit there all night, not really move much, not, look nervous, people are not going to feel, like they want to get up and they want to dance, because they're like, okay, if the couple are not dancing, they're just, I'm not going to get up and start jumping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you set the tone.
You set the tone.
And you guys did.
And when it comes to planning, like planning a wedding, because this is something that, I noticed throughout our experience is we like us as the couple and we're trying to create a certain thing that we all like, we want, right? But so there's exactly what you want, but you have to, your guests play like such an important role in all of this. But then, you have that dilemma is like, okay, this would be nicer for the guests, but like, I don't really, want that. So balancing that is quite challenging.
It is. I think that's especially true, I would say, of, for example, how you format your wedding and the music part of it, which is why I think, it's nice to kind of try throughout the night to appease the different guest groups that you have, the elders, the youngsters, so that you can give everyone something to enjoy during the night.
Yeah.
But regardless, if you have thought of everything, people are comfortable, they're well fed, the service is great, beautiful ambiance, beautiful music, people are not going to want more than that, even if you're not playing their favorite music.
Yeah, true. No, it's true.
You
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
Even those that don't dance enjoyed it. They were sitting in the garden, enjoying the ambiance, you know, chit-chatting, having good food. So there's something for everyone. That's why everything is important. No
Yeah.
detail is too small.
Yeah.
You can't skip on
Yeah.
a detail, because that way there's something for everyone. Some people will enjoy looking at a beautiful wedding, looking at the flowers, looking at the details. Other people are going to enjoy the music.
Yeah.
Other people are just going to enjoy by being outdoors, sitting on a beautiful winter's night. Other people are going to enjoy the food. Other people are going to enjoy the social aspect and chit-chatting. And then you and your friends, the party,
Yeah.
after party.
Yeah,
So, but you know, and the thing is, you can't please everyone.
And you won't.
And you won't.
You know, yeah. for sure.
Impossible.
Yeah.
No matter how much you try, someone will complain about something. The key is that you have to remember this is your wedding. You have to be happy first and foremost.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't want to be happy for you, that's
Yeah,
on them.
yeah,
At the end of the
it's
day,
not
it's
my
like
problem.
when sometimes in weddings I hear guests complain about certain things. It's like, but this isn't your wedding.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can do
yeah.
this in your wedding. This is their wedding.
Yeah.
This is what they want. You're invited. Be great. Be gracious.
Sure. Yeah.
Enjoy it.
100%.
Make the most of it. You're there to celebrate their joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think a lot of times when people see how happy you guys are,
That
just
like translates into
automatically,
it.
yeah, exactly.
And you're not look. You're never gonna make everyone happy,
No.
and there's always gonna be someone or something that did
They'll
not,
complain.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. But it's
The music was too loud. The lighting
yes,
was too bright.
This took too long to come. Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just gonna,
human nature.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so now so we've talked about, the different aspects of a wedding. I want to talk about now, how would you advise people when it comes to looking for a venue? Now, for example, in our case, a big wedding, you know what I realized in our experience? I'm like, Dubai, yeah, there's a lot of spaces for big weddings, but also not really.
Not really.
Once you cross that like 500 mark, like you were saying, and
Very
we looked
limited.
at so many
Very
venues,
limited.
which was very surprising. And so should you, because that, again, this is another dilemma that you have to like figure out. Is it, okay, I want to invite like 1 billion people, but this venue takes like 1,000 people,
Yeah.
and balancing that. So how would you advise like a client, when it comes to looking, for a venue? What are the things we should be thinking about or taking into consideration?
I think first and foremost, your guest list. Like, what number are you working with? Because there's nothing worse than booking a venue only to find out that you can't fit that many people in it. And a lot of times, and this is something that really kind of annoys me with venues, is that when they give clients, when someone comes for a site visit and they give them the capacity, they don't take into consideration a stage or a dance floor, or they give them the venue's capacity.
Like empty. Like a shell.
Just round tables, our venue can host up to 500 people. No, it doesn't. Because once you design it for a wedding, you need to have a walkway, and you need to have a stage, and you need to have a dance floor, and you need technical areas, and you're going to reduce it by almost 150.
Wow, is that significant?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because
that's like 30%.
Exactly. It's
Wow.
like it eats up a lot of space. So, and a lot of times people book their venues before they hire us.
Ah.
A lot of times it happens
Okay.
that people come to us and a venue is already booked, which should not be the case. Because I think you should hire your planner first and allow them to guide you through this process, because they know things you don't.
Yeah.
They know things that you are not going to be aware of when you're picking a venue. Like, we once had a client pick a venue and come to us and say, I have 600 people. It's like, but your venue can't hold more than 350.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How are you going to fit 600 people? It's impossible. So when you're looking out for venues, you need to make sure that maybe you consult with someone or a planner as to what actual capacity of that venue is going to be. You also need to consider things like accessibility to the venue. Sometimes people don't like when the venue is really far and they have to walk a long time to get to it. Backup plan. That was something that we discussed many times. I said, I'm not comfortable doing a wedding in a space that has no backup plan to be indoors.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in the lead up to your wedding, it was raining.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. When we were talking about that, we were all scared. Just please,
exactly.
one day,
But
please.
then we had the perfect day. Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. We had the perfect day. So backup plans. Also, there are some venues that are difficult to work in. Let's say they have no hanging points. So you have to do ground truss supports. That eats into your space as well. Because if I'm building towers up from the floor to hang my lighting, that's going to eat up space there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of technical considerations that you need to be aware of when you're looking at venues. But first and foremost, capacity is the biggest thing. That is the first thing you need to tick.
It starts from there.
It starts from there.
Okay.
Then you have to think about what kind of a wedding do I want? We were touching on that earlier. I want an all-white wedding, but the space is very colorful. I want a modern wedding, but the space is very traditional. So you need to also kind of work with that.
Okay.
Think of what kind of wedding do I want? Okay, I want a garden-style wedding, but how is a garden going to fit into this venue, for example?
Yeah.
Maybe number of rooms in a hotel. If you have out-of-town guests, and sometimes there are not enough rooms in a hotel to house your guests. Where the venue is located within the city, what's around it. Again, if your wedding have out-of-town guests, food and beverage. Is their food and beverage superior or not? Service, valet capacities, because that all counts towards that experience for your guests. So it's not about walking in and saying, I like it, let's book it. No, there's a lot that you have to think about.
Yeah,
when you're picking up your venue.
Even just listening to you go through it, I'm like, yes, and I didn't think of that, and whatever. Obviously, in the process, I'm like, oh, this is nice, but it's just me. I'm like, this is good.
You cannot. You haven't planned a wedding before.
I have not,
How would you know these things?
True.
This comes from years and years of experience.
Yeah.
And for us, we've worked at these venues. I know the pros and cons of every venue in Dubai.
Yeah.
Because I've worked in them. I've experienced them firsthand. So I urge couples when they get engaged and they want to pick your planner first.
Okay.
Allow them to guide you through this process. It saves you a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you touched on how on your website that you guys have done weddings for different cultures. So now obviously an Arab wedding off by heart,
inside out.
Inside out, that's us.
Yeah.
But when you're doing a wedding for people in different cultures, because when in our example, we're speaking the same language, the values, the people, all the cultural things that go into an Arab wedding. Now, when you're working with people with different cultures and different, backgrounds, is it more challenging for you because you have to, learn about that culture, learn, how things are, what's important, and do you have a preference if you could decide?
Khalid, let me tell you, we have different cultures, different traditions throughout the world, and with weddings in particular, there are many. I mean, even within the Middle East.
Yeah, true.
Even
exactly.
within the Middle East, there's so many different. You've got the Levant, and then you've got the Gulf, and then you've got, and they all have different traditions. But we're all celebrating one thing. The objective is the same. We're celebrating love. A wedding's a wedding. No matter where you come from, we're going to celebrate love in the same way. The traditions might vary, but you're still celebrating love. And I think the main objectives remain the same from every wedding that I plan. I love planning multicultural weddings. And I mean, it's a blessing to be working in Dubai because you get a lot of that.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's nice to be exposed to the different cultures and traditions. And it gives me an opportunity to really personalize a wedding. Like if the couple are from different backgrounds, to bring in some elements from each tradition and to expose their guests, like the groom's side to the bride's side's traditions, and it keeps it interesting, it keeps it different, and you marry those traditions,
together,
and you personalize it. So I do love it, I do enjoy it, but there's a lot of you have to understand who you're working with. So there's a lot of research that goes into it, and to try and understand and be aware of what's acceptable and what's not, and like there are certain things that I didn't know about certain cultures, like they're acceptable in our culture, like for example in like Indian weddings you can't use white.
You can't use white?
Yeah, white is a color for funerals.
Oh, really? Oh,
but for us, it's like white is, you know what I mean?
Oh, I had no
Black
idea.
is the color of it, you know? So there are
Okay.
like these kind of things that you have to really be aware of. Sometimes also like the format, like some cultures don't sit on like dinner tables, or you know, like Saudis, for example, have to have two distinct spaces, a dinner space and a party space. They don't mix the two. Locals, for example, don't have dance floors. They have walkways and a bridal stage. So there's lots of details, and it's very exciting and interesting to work with these different cultures. But there's a great deal of learning and understanding.
Yeah.
But it's the same. The way I have to to get to know you, even though we're from the same culture and traditions, I still have to know you because you're a unique person.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the same. And you also have to understand, what are people's priorities? You know, is it a priority for you to focus on your traditions, or maybe not? Maybe, you know, I've had couples that I did a Nigerian wedding many years ago, and they did their traditional wedding in Nigeria, but came here to do more of a Western style.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So you see, sometimes they don't really want to bring that in. They have separate events for that. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, I can, and I think one of the cool things is, besides you're learning about different cultural traditions and so on, is I think, especially from a creative standpoint, you're getting inspiration from so many different cultures.
Right.
Like, oh, like this would look really good in an Arabic wedding. This is something that's not done. This
100%.
brings a different look to it, right?
Yeah,
That's really, really interesting.
Absolutely.
But you, so with the book you just released, A Carousel of Weddings, it looks beautiful. You know, the
Thank
cover
you.
looks really, really nice. And you wanted to, correct me if I'm wrong, if I've understood, the aim of the book is to showcase, you know, the beauty of like our culture in the Middle East and Middle
Correct.
Eastern weddings. So let me ask you, what is unique about our weddings?
Hospitality.
Is that it? Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that.
One of the most unique aspects of our culture is hospitality, and how the guest is the priority. You know, how we curate our food that is served at weddings. Different, you know, for example, with local weddings, like perfume stations.
Okay. Oh, this is all new to me.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting.
So, you know, like we design beautiful perfume displays so that when the guests arrive, they can, you know, use the perfume, and they do powder rooms for the guests so that they can go in and refresh their makeup. Food is free flowing all night, whether it's the teas and coffees and chocolates. And so hospitality is a big thing in Middle Eastern weddings.
Yeah.
We also, I think, you know, there's the misconception, and we just touched on it, that Middle Easterns are all the same. They're this homogeneous group of people. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know, we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have Jewish, we have, you know, and they're all Arabs, but they're different, you know, religions, and they will bring in their different traditions to each Middle Eastern wedding as well. So the traditions that go around a Middle Eastern wedding, you know, the henna night, you know, after the wedding, you know, we have what we call them barkiya, you know, there's all of these like really nice Middle Eastern traditions. The bridal stage, the kosha, which is very unique to the Middle East as well. You've got cultures like Iran or Iraq, for example, they do a spread which they call the sufra, and that has a lot of like unique details that go into it. The Katb al-Iktab, for example, which is the ceremony that we do, that's also quite unique to our cultures. So I think for a lot of people, they don't understand how much depth we have to celebrating our weddings in this part of the world, and how we're all different but the same. We're the same but different.
The same but different. Yeah.
We're the same but different. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what I wanted to show in the book, and I kind of also wanted to highlight Dubai as a destination for weddings.
Yeah.
And to show the endless possibilities here.
There's some amazing options in terms of when it comes to like hotels and stuff. Honestly, Dubai ruins you for the rest of the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's nowhere else you go, and like in Europe, you'll be paying prices that you're paying here, and I'm getting like a closet, you know, but like I'm on like, you know, the Champs-Elysees or whatever, but like, who cares? Yeah, I could
and
go
the
here
service.
and do that. Yeah.
Service. And even I think the quality of food now, like Dubai is such a big food city at the moment. It's like, you're right, it's ruined it for us. And also I think the level of luxury you get in Dubai is unparalleled.
It really is.
So if you're looking for luxury, I don't think you can get that same level anywhere in the world. Safety is a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I hear a lot about European cities being unsafe at the moment, and people don't feel safe being there. So when you're planning a destination wedding, you also have to think of the safety of your guests and that no one will have it.
I never thought of that, actually. That's the last thing I would have ever thought of when it comes to it. But you're right. That's so true.
And post-COVID as well, health safety is becoming a big priority. You know, like, am I in a place where, you know, we have accessibility to good hospitals and doctors and the infrastructure is there? And Dubai has all of that to offer. What city in the world would give you the best of every cuisine that you could think of? Indian cuisine, Italian cuisine, Middle Eastern, Iranian, you name it, European, whatever. You can get amazing food from different parts of the world here.
Yeah.
You know, you might go to a place, let's say you go to, you know, you're not going to be able to get really good Indian there if you have Indian guests coming, or if you have Arab. You know, sometimes people are very particular with food. And you know how it is with our cultures. That's why the sit-down dinner doesn't work for our weddings.
No, it doesn't.
Because, like, you can't force me to eat this. I want something else. So, you know, we have our lavish buffets and food stations.
Yeah.
And Dubai is like, you cannot match.
You can't.
You really can't.
No, 100%. And touching on what you said about what makes us unique, when you said hospitality, I'm like, it just, I don't know, I automatically just felt it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get that. You know, always.
We make people feel good.
Yeah, like you have guests coming over, you know, growing up, your parents are like, you have to be like this and whatever.
Right.
There's so much emphasis on, you know,
the guest.
Pleasing the guest and being, you know, generous and, you know,
Guest is king.
Guest is king.
Yeah.
Exactly. And coming on, I have a few more questions for you, Zainab. One of them, I'm curious to see what you say. It'll be funny. So you said one of your favorite professional like mottos or quotes that you live by is "do it with passion or not at all." Could you tell me why that's your favorite and what does that mean to you?
You know, even in my personal life, I'm the kind of person that you either do it and do it well, or don't even bother.
Okay.
Even my, you know, personal relation, either I love you with all my heart, or I'm not going to bother with you. I cannot, you know, like this.
Compartmentalize.
No, it's for me, it's like, I'm, you know, what you see is what you get with me.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that, you know, if I like you, you can tell. If I don't, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
You can see it on my face. I'm not really a fan.
Yeah.
Even when I do things, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to perfect it. Otherwise, don't want to do it mediocrely. Like I'm not, if I cook, I'm going to cook well. If I can't cook well, I'm not going to cook. If I'm going to plan a wedding, if I'm going to plan it really well. If I'm not going to do that. Everything in my life, I have to feel passionate about. I have to do it with love. I have to put my heart into it. So this is a motto I live by for everything in my life. If I'm a mother, I'm going to try to be the best mother I can. A wife, I'm going to be the best wife I can. A friend, I'm going to try and be the best friend. Yeah. Your planner, I'm going to try to be the best planner. So for me, I have to be passionate about what I do. Yeah. And I'm a very emotional person. I feel with all my heart. I love with all my heart. And passion drives me in life. And if I don't feel it, I can't do it.
You can't do it. And you know what? That's 100% fair. And obviously, whenever you are doing something that makes you feel that way, no matter what it is, that's what you want to do. You know?
Exactly.
That's what
life is too short. To live it, you know, being it's okay. Yeah. Did you have fun? Yeah, it was fine.
It was good. Yeah.
You know, if I'm not gonna go and enjoy myself, I'm not going.
Yeah, fair. And you know what? Fair enough. And I resonate with what you're saying a lot. That I'm myself and Lana as well. Like we're the type of people, we wear our heart on our sleeve. And like, if I love you, like, you know, I'll go to, you know, I'll take a bullet for you. If I don't, like, you know, get out. I don't have time,
Exactly.
You know, I'm not interested.
Exactly.
I was thinking, have you, how old are your kids now?
So my eldest is 22.
You have three boys.
I have 3 boys. The eldest is the best. So happy with my boys. The eldest is 22. Yeah. 18.
Okay.
And 15.
Oh, even the age gap is perfect. Have you ever thought about, you know, when that day will come, would you be the one planning like their weddings?
Good question. Well, I think
because it must have crossed your mind, you know, like I wonder what I'd do for like my wedding for like my son. Yeah.
I mean, the control freak that I am, I don't know if I'm going to allow anyone to plan it. However, having been doing this for all my life, I'm thinking, you know what? maybe it will be time for me to enjoy having someone else do this for me.
Would you hire someone else for that, or?
I think it would be very difficult.
Yeah, I could not see you doing
Yeah,
that.
I think if I tell you, yeah, maybe I'll be lying.
Yeah,
I mean, even though I know the best planners in the world, but I think it would be difficult. I think, I would definitely not allow anyone to touch that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. but then it would be a clash with my daughter-in-law, because I'm gonna want to do it my way, and it's gonna be her wedding, and I'm gonna have to be careful with that.
You're gonna be the planner, the client. You're gonna be everything when that time comes.
Exactly. But hopefully, my future daughters-in-law, they will understand that I'm good at what I do, and just let me do it.
It's okay. If they need a reference, you can send them to me.
Definitely.
That's really funny. Zainab, I just have two more questions for you. They're
Sure.
questions I ask all my guests. So, but before that, you've been doing this for 15 years. We've worked with you, Yani. We've had the time. I don't say this because I'm being biased, whatever. I genuinely had my wedding was. You have a perception of how you think it's gonna be. I'm like, okay, I know it's gonna be good. I've always, from the beginning, I'm like, it's gonna be good. How it's gonna be good, I don't know.
Of course.
But I had even more fun than I thought I could have. So it was very special. But when it comes to planning a wedding, if I ask you, from your perspective, because there's sometimes that you might do and sometimes you might not. Would you advise everyone to definitely get a wedding planner, or because there's a lot of value that you bring and you're taking a lot of stress off my hand, but sometimes people just want to plan it themselves and it could work. I know your answer is tough because it's what you do, but what would you say to that when it comes to when I'm planning a wedding, should I get a wedding planner, yes or no? What should I think about?
I mean, even if you are someone that is a planner by nature in their everyday life, and you're organized and you know what you want and you can do, you cannot plan your own wedding. It's not easy to plan your own wedding because there's too much emotion.
Interesting point. Actually, I never thought of it like that. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like having maybe a surgeon perform a surgery on their child or their loved one. I don't think it's easy. They could be the best doctor in the world. If they had to, they would. But I'm sure if you ask a lot of surgeons, would you perform a surgery on your own? They'll say no. So because there's too much emotion, you have to be a little bit removed to be able to do it properly, do it well, to see, and also the experience. You've never planned a wedding before. You don't know what to look out for. You don't know what's important. You don't know what matters most. You don't have the network of suppliers that we do, for example. You wouldn't know who's good and who's not. It's hard. That is a very difficult one. Vetting suppliers.
The vetting process, exactly.
The vetting process is very difficult. So even if you can do it, to be able to vet people and to know whether they're going to do a good job, or that in itself is going to be a big challenge. And then when we come to the day, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to be running after suppliers and making sure things are getting done? And how are you going to do that? You want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You want to be having fun. You want to be relaxed. So I don't recommend it at all.
Okay.
Definitely hire a planner. Even if you might not want to, let's say, hire someone to design your wedding. You want to design it yourself and you want to, do that part by yourself. But still have a planner. Have someone to manage the process for you.
Yeah, someone to help, even if you don't want them to do the full
100%,
thing. Maybe certain parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it gets too much. It gets hectic. It gets stressful.
Yeah.
And doing it all on your own is not easy. I mean, just again managing all these moving parts. There's so much. It's interesting because people only see the setup part of our job, which makes it tough for us to explain to people how much work we put in.
Goes into, because I only
because
see...
you can't see it.
No.
You can't see that part.
Yeah.
That's hidden.
Yeah.
People see, oh, it's a beautiful wedding. Yeah, tables, chairs, flowers. That's the easy part. That's really the easy part. The tough part is the planning. And the coordination and the logistics. And this is the toughest part, which unfortunately we cannot show to people. People cannot imagine how much work goes. I sometimes tell people, by the way, if I clock the number of hours I put into each wedding, my time, my team's time, I don't think anyone can afford to hire us if we're going to charge an hourly rate, like a lot of service providers charge, like whether it's a lawyer or, they tell you my hourly rate.
Yep.
If a wedding planner gives you an hourly rate, there's no way you can afford to hire them.
Yeah.
Anyone can. Because it will be crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's literally like God knows how many hours of work.
And it's so true. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things. It's frustrating when you put so much work into something, and yes, the client or the person is happy with the final product, but you feel like, but you don't know, like, what went through, getting it, it's
but
that
that's
stage.
Part of our job, right?
Well, yeah, that's
for you not
exactly.
to know is means I did my job, because
exactly.
if you were to know, then I didn't do my job.
Yeah.
The idea is that you have no clue
exactly.
as to what happened
Yeah.
for us to get to this day and to execute it flawlessly.
How do you? I can't imagine how like nerve-wracking it must feel. Even though when you do everything right, at the end of the day, you're still dealing with people. For example, reflecting like our wedding, that the first time like you see like everything we've talked about, all the planning, all the things we've visualized, that first look at the venue before like everyone comes, that must be such a nerve-wracking experience.
No, but it's my favorite moment. Seeing the wedding come together is my favorite moment.
Yeah.
It's like, I always compare it to being pregnant.
Okay.
And seeing your child for the first time. It's like all this anticipation. I'm carrying this. And I finally see it. Oh, there you are, and you're beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a very proud moment. It's a very emotional moment. And for me, the highlight of every wedding is when you guys walk in.
Yeah.
And I see the reaction on your face. Mm-mm. And then that's when I'm like, okay.
Now I've done it. Yeah.
They're happy.
Tick. Exactly. Mission accomplished. Yeah.
And I have withdrawal symptoms after every wedding. I miss it. I'm like, because it's like, all of a sudden I'm not talking to you guys. I'm not thinking of you guys. It's like, you do miss your clients after every wedding. It's like, it's over.
Yeah.
And people ask me like, if you can name your favorite wedding. I'm like, I can't. They're like my babies.
Yeah, exactly.
I love them all. I love them all.
And actually, that pregnant example is good, just from I'm thinking of it from a time perspective, because we were working together for about a year.
Yeah.
So when your advice to like people when you're planning a wedding, let's say the wedding is, because the time factor is gonna have a big impact on your ability to be able to deliver what you can deliver. So how soon should I be? Like, what's a safe or a comfortable time frame that you would recommend to clients, basically?
Like a minimum of 6 months.
Minimum of 6.
Minimum of 6 months. However, it's not the case. Mm-hmm. We're lucky to get 3 months. I mean, you guys were super early.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
Most of the time,
my average is 3 to 4 months.
Wow, 3 to 4 to do everything that we did last year.
Yes.
No, that's not possible.
I've done everything that we've done. In 1 month once.
In 1 month?
Actually, in December, early December, I got a wedding for early Jan for 700 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not, I'm trying to just, because even just just besides creating the idea, like the back and forth, the feedback, like this, how did you stretch everything we did? And I thought we did it. We didn't feel rushed. We didn't feel whatever. But there were so many things that we had to do to get it.
Look, I think what ends up happening is there's more pressure on you to make your decisions quicker.
Yeah, closer to the time, there's no more. I'm like, okay, we have to know.
When you know that you have a month to do this, you don't have the luxury of let me sleep on it. It's like there's no sleeping on anything.
There's no sleep. Yeah.
you have to decide now, and we need to get more. We actually can work quite quickly. So, we have processes in place. We know, the thing that might take the most time is the design work.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the planning, we can do very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we know we know who we've done this day in, day out for many, many years.
Yeah.
So we have a system in place.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the planning, we can churn it out very quickly. The design does take time. And the whole process really, I think when you have more time, it allows you more time to kind of make decisions, think about stuff. And there are times you may want things, if we don't have time, that they cannot happen because of the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
It will limit
Yeah.
what can be done.
So 6 months is like a safe range to
Yeah,
like aim
yeah,
for. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But the fact that I can't believe that you have done weddings in like a month, that
Yes,
blows
we
my
have,
mind.
we have, yeah.
Respect to you, man. I don't know how you did it. Like
Thank you.
even in our experience,
Practice
it's like, wow.
makes perfect.
It clearly does
Yeah.
that. Our wedding was fantastic, man. I had such a good time. Zainab, just 2 more questions for you. These are questions I ask all my guests. So looking back, either personally or professionally, when I ask you the question, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
I'm proud of my 3 boys. I look at them today and I'm proud of the men and people they've become. And I think as far as a job goes, I'm most proud of my job as a mother. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. When I ask that question, a lot of guests, family always comes up,
Yes.
raising kids, the relationship they have with that. So that's a beautiful thing. And, I'm not there yet, but when I do, I'll call for
It's a magical journey.
Yeah.
And one that goes by so quickly. You need to enjoy it.
Yeah. And I've heard that
Yeah,
too.
like it's like now I look at my children and I'm like, oh my gosh, when did this happen?
Does it really feel like that for you, like as a parent?
Yes,
It feels like
it
that for you.
really
Like,
does.
yes, a couple weeks ago we were like, I was carrying you. You needed me to do this, whatever.
100%.
And now it's
It's crazy. I
Wow.
mean, it's very hard for me to look at baby pictures.
really?
It's very hard. It gets me emotional because I can't fathom how that time has passed. But also looking back and thinking to myself, I'm so glad of the time I spent with them. I'm so glad that I chose to stay home when I did. I chose to start my own business, to be able to be flexible, to have that time with them. It's a luxury. I know not a lot of mothers have that luxury, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And also, I had a rule that I never traveled and left my children.
Okay.
I never took vacations unless they were with me. So looking back now, I'm actually thankful that I did that because I may look back and regret traveling without them or not spending enough
Yeah.
time with them because their time with us is fleeting.
Yeah.
They tell you that by the time your child reaches the age of 18, they would have spent, I think, 90% of their time with you. After that, that's it. Up to the age of 18.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
I now have an 18 and a 22-year-old, so that's it for me. But
You got the one left, the baby
one
left.
the baby.
He's getting there soon.
Yes.
But it's funny. So many of my friends now are about to have. One of them is about to have his first. Another one's about to have his second. And I've always wanted kids, and I've said this on some podcasts recently. But seeing like my cousins and like their kids and all of that, and I'm like,
It's
and
hard work.
I'm like, I want to do, it, but I'm just thinking, I'm like, Zainab, like how am I gonna have the patience to do that? And everyone tells you,
You'll be surprised.
yeah, everyone says the same thing. It's like you have the baby, and then it's like a switch. It's like an on-off switch, like
Do you
like
know,
father. And
exactly.
You just go with
Do
it.
you know, I was never a morning person. Like I loved my morning lion.
Neither am I,
Like
yeah.
I loved to sleep in. And my husband used to joke. He's like, "How are you gonna get up for those children? Like you're." It's like I love my morning sleep, and I was like, But you know what? You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
When it comes to your children, what you're willing to let go of, what sacrifices you make,
Yeah.
they just become the center of your life and the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
And there's so much joy that you get out of becoming a parent.
Yeah.
You can't imagine your life without them. Like, you think of a time like, how was I before
Like,
we
what
had
was-
children?
what was
Like,
that- yeah.
how,
What was that like?
You remember your time now, being without children, you and Lana, and you'll think, did we really have that time or we didn't have these kids? But my advice is take your time.
Yeah.
There's no rush.
Yeah, of course.
Enjoy
No.
your time. Enjoy the first few years of being married without
Yeah.
having children and the responsibility. Because once they come, they will change your life forever.
Yeah.
Life will never be the same.
Life will never be the same.
You
famous
will not
famous
have more
words.
than 5 minutes in the shower. So enjoy it. Yeah.
Until that day comes, we'll do a round 2 of this once,
Yes.
in
Once
a
you have
couple of
children,
years.
we'll
Once I
talk
have
about
children.
parenthood.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I would love any and all advice.
Yes.
And Zainab, for my last question that I ask all my guests, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Do it with passion or not at all.
And there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Keep it like that. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I wanted to have you on from the beginning, but I'm like, let's get this well. Let's
Yes.
finish this, and then
Yes,
we'll
it will be more
yeah,
meaningful.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then more to reflect on.
Thank you, Khalid. This was special for me
Yeah.
to be able to chat with one of my grooms about my favorite subject, because you have a perspective
Yeah.
that sometimes people I speak to may not have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was really fun chatting to you.
Yeah, no, it was a
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. Working with you always was a pleasure. Thank you so much again for the wedding. It was really amazing.
It was my pleasure.
Zainab, if anyone wants to work with you, reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
Through our website.
Okay.
So that's carousel.ae.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best way. They can go through different channels there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one last thing I just wanted to ask you, where did the name Carousel come from?
Carousel of life.
Ah.
So, weddings, you get married and you start your carousel of life. And also, I'm a firm believer in what goes around comes around. And carousel.
Carousel it is.
Yes.
Zainab, thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's been a
Khalid.
pleasure. Guys, to everyone listening, please make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to the podcast at Hope It Helps Pod on Instagram. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.